Hi everyone, I wanted to record a little video lecture here so that we could have a moment to talk about the story, The Gift of the Magi, because in this upcoming week, in the same module, you're going to be deciding on the subject of your essay and beginning to formulate a thesis and outline it. And so it may be that you want to write about The Gift of the Magi and some of the literary devices that are used by O. Henry. O. Henry's an interesting writer, and there are a couple of interesting literary devices in this story. So I'm hoping you take the time. I'll be telling you in class to take the time to read Gift of the Magi first before you decide what you're going to write about. Listen to this video lecture, and we can talk about it more after we do our rough draft workshop. And so this story, you may be familiar with it because it's a pretty famous story, and it was turned into a cartoon with Minnie and Mickey Mouse. So, of course, this is the story where, for Christmas, the poor couple is wanting to get something for each other, and they each have a prized possession. The husband loves his watch, the wife loves her hair, so the husband pawns his watch to buy his wife a nice comb. But he doesn't realize that his wife has sold her hair in order to buy him a chain for his watch. And so what do they get? They have a chain with no watch and a comb with no hair. And so it's not what you might expect. And there's this lesson in it that O. Henry is trying to teach. A lot of O. Henry's stories seem to have kind of like a moral to the story, which we'll talk about in the second unit after this first essay, is the idea of a theme, the deeper meaning of a story, the lesson that the writer is trying to teach you. And O. Henry kind of just tells you what the story is. It's, they're poor, and the fact that even though it seems kind of silly and dumb and they shouldn't have done, he shouldn't have sold his watch because the gift he got her was useless, and then the gift she got him was useless, vice versa. In fact, O. Henry is suggesting that their gifts are the best kind of gifts because they represent sacrifice and true love. And he raises the idea that they may be richer than even actual rich people because they have real love for each other and they're not stuck valuing what they people, wealth, valuing wealth and things like that, and they value something else. The main literary devices that I would talk about here, one of them is irony. So what happens at the end when you find out that, he sold his watch to buy her the comb, but she doesn't have hair now, right? So you might not have expected that to happen. And because the way you might, not only did you not expect it to happen, but it's kind of like a funny result. It's unfortunate and kind of unexpected. This is what we would call irony, and this story is a very ironic story. So the idea of irony, I'm going to switch to a literary devices website that defines literary devices. This is a good website, literarydevices.net. So when you look up irony, and the idea of irony is it's available in the Canvas shell. Irony, it says, is a figure of speech in which words are used in such a way that their intended meaning is different from the actual meaning of the words. Okay, but that's not the kind of irony we're talking about here. We're talking about irony that happens in a story. So on the grounds of that definition, it says it may also be a situation that ends up in a quite different way than what is generally anticipated. And that's what we have in this story. In simple words, it's a difference between appearance and reality. So there's verbal irony where you say something ironically. Maybe you don't mean it when you say it. And then there's situational irony. What we're usually thinking of when we say there's irony in a story is situational irony. Their example is a man is chuckling at the misfortune of another, even when the same misfortune is befalling him. So what we have here, and there's the definition that I have for situational irony is that it's the incongruity or the difference between what is expected to happen and what actually happens. So something unexpected happens, and it creates kind of a funny situation. And what we have in the Gift of the Magi is you wouldn't expect that they would both do the exact same thing, sacrifice the thing that they love in order to get a gift for the other person that is only useful if they kept the thing that they loved. So what happens is they both make sacrifices, and then both of them receive gifts that are of no use to them. This is the irony that's created. It's kind of a funny result. It's almost like a plot twist in a story, and what we see is that it's different from what you might expect to happen. Now, there's another kind of irony that we see in this story as well, and that is where it's called dramatic irony, frequently employed by writers in their works. In situational irony, both characters and the audience are fully unaware of the implications of the real situation. In dramatic irony, the characters are oblivious of the situation, but the audience is not. So that's the big difference in dramatic irony. You, as the reader, are aware of something that the characters don't know. We kind of have dramatic irony in The Gift of the Magi as well, because you, as the reader, are aware as things go on, right? We know, for example, something that Jim doesn't know, that she'd been saving every penny, right? Like it says here, many happy hour she spent planning for something nice for him, and then she ends up going to sell her hair, right? So now Della's beautiful hair fell about her, rippling and shining like a cascade. So we know she's selling her hair, right? The thing is, what we don't know, we don't have complete knowledge, I don't believe, because we only see one side of it. So we are not aware of the irony until Jim reveals that he also sold his watch in order to buy her a comb. If we knew both things going in, it would be complete dramatic irony, where you are aware of what the characters don't know, and so the fact that they aren't aware of what's happening is more ironic to you. So there's this idea of irony, and it's pretty common. We'll point it out in more than one story. They have some examples here of ironies. Here, The Gift of the Magi is example number 5. An example of situational irony in which the wife sells her most prized possession, her hair, to get her husband a Christmas present, and the husband sells his most dear possession, the gold watch, to get his wife a Christmas present. By the end, it's revealed that neither has the utility of the present bought by the other, as both sell their best things to give the other one a gift. Combs, the gift of the wife, is useless because she sold her hair. Okay, right. We get it. So the situation becomes ironic for such an incident because it's not what you would expect to happen, and the result has humor. That's a big part of irony. It's not really ironic if it's just terrible, like, oh, you didn't expect this person to get murdered. That's not really irony. That's just unfortunate. And in this case, it's not what you expect, and there's some humor to it, and it can also be something that teaches a lesson. So this is irony. Sometimes it's kind of hard to put your finger on what irony is, but it's definitely here. The other thing I want to talk about in The Gift of the Magi is the fact that there is allusion. That's with an A, spelled like this: Allusion. Allusion is a common thing in stories where you are referring to another story. So allusion is a brief and indirect reference to a person, place, thing, or idea of historical, cultural, literary, or political significance. It does not describe in detail the person or thing to which it refers. It's just a passing comment, and the writer expects the reader to possess enough knowledge to spot the allusion and grasp its importance in the text. Okay, so for instance, you make a literary allusion the moment you say, I don't approve of that quixotic idea. That's referring to Don Quixote. Let me see here. I wonder if they've got any examples using gift to the Magi. No, well, the gift to the Magi, the allusion here is very obvious. They're referring to the Magi. The Magi, also known as the three wise men in the story of the Nativity, right? We three kings of Orient are, they're mentioned in more than one Christmas carol. The three wise men who came to visit Jesus in his infancy. And it refers to, because of the fact that the Magi brought gifts, right? And they are wise men, so they bring wise gifts. And he says here at the end, he says, where is it? The Magi brought valuable gifts, but that was not among them. It says, out of his trance, Jim seemed quickly to wake. Let us regard with discreet scrutiny some inconsequential object in the other direction. What he's saying is, let's look the other way while he hugs his wife. Because they're getting a little frisky with each other. We're going to look the other way. That's what his line says. $8 a week or $1 million a year, what's the difference? So this is one of the meanings of this story. It's not about wealth. A mathematician or a wit would give you the wrong answer. The Magi brought valuable gifts, but that was not one of them. This dark assertion will be illuminated later on. So he says, I'm going to talk more about the Magi. And in the last paragraph, he says, the Magi, as you know, were wise men, wonderfully wise men, who brought gifts to the babe in the manger. That would be Jesus, right? They invented the art of Christmas presents. Okay, being wise, their gifts were no doubt wise ones, possibly bearing the privilege of exchange in case of duplication. And here I have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children in a flat. The flat's like an apartment, who most unwisely sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of their house. So he's saying the wise men, they must have brought wise presents, right? Because they were valuable presents like gold, right? But he's saying here, these are two foolish people, and they sacrificed their prized possessions for nothing, it turns out. But was it for nothing? In a last word to the wise of these days, let it be said that all who give gifts, these two were the wisest. They are the Magi, the wise men. He's saying self-sacrifice is more important than giving something expensive. This is a better gift because it shows you love them. So he's making a reference to the Magi. He makes references throughout this story. Earlier he talks about King Solomon. He talks about the Queen of Sheba. When he's referring to, when a writer refers to historical figures or to other works of art and characters in other pieces of literature, and they assume that you know who King Solomon is, they assume you know who the Magi are, then they are making an allusion. All right, as we said over here, and it brings deeper meaning to the story. The function of an allusion enables writers and poets to simplify complex ideas and emotions because you have this knowledge of the other works of art and history that they're referring to.